Hey guys, it's Todd from Like Minded Lunatics, bringing you, it's another drink, play, swear. Hey, it's all we do around here. I mean, besides wishing we were Arnold Schwarzenegger when we were little kids, it's all we've ever done around here. Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Like Minded Lunatics, and welcome back to Drink, Play, Swear. No, you know that Like Minded Lunatics is not just Drink, Play, Swear. It's also my buddy and writing partner, Mark Gifford. Bang, he's doing the Friday night videos up there. And please, while I'm thinking about it, bang, bang, hit that subscribe button right there so we can see how big this family of like-minded weirdos, degenerates, runaways, and ne'er-do-wells is getting. And it gets bigger every day. Thank you guys for being here. We are so happy you're here. All right, so what is it that we do here at Drink, Play, Swear? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. We play a game, usually a classic one. I pair it with a beverage, and we tell a story. All right, what are we playing here today? Oh, man, it's Wizards and Warriors on the NES. I have to say, this is one of my first games ever. One of my first 5 NES games. I love this game, and I love the soundtrack. You'll hear it in a moment. What are we pairing with it today? Well, I already cracked it open, and it's a big one, so I'm going to have to get busy. It's got a chroma key out here, but this is a Dos Equis with the lime and salt already added. Why don't you get yourself something, and let's have a good time. Yeah, that's a tall order, a tall boy there. All right, Wizards and Warriors. Oh, by the way, here's the cartridge. That's right, original cartridge right there. The Wizards and Warriors game from 1987 by Rare and Acclaim. Great game. One of my first 5 games. So let's crack this bad boy open and play. Listen to the soundtrack here. It's so good once we get started. So you play a warrior. The game is called Wizards and Warriors because the main bad guy is a wizard. And I loved this game as a kid, and part of it was because I was so captivated by the world of fantasy. I really was, not only in video games, but in film, television, and comic books. I just loved that genre. And not only is that our topic for the game today, but it's what I want to talk about in the story today is I didn't even realize it until recently, how sort of, I don't know, enamored I was with this specific fantasy genre of Wizards and Warriors. Maybe this is what started it, this game, you know, for me. I probably got it when I was 6 years old, and this was an infuriating game. One of the first games I ever beat as a kid. Played Breakthrough before on the channel. That was one of my first games that I beat also. And I don't know, something about this game and something about what it asked of you. It asked you to be in a magical world, you know. And I always was, my head was in the clouds as a kid. It largely is today, to be honest. Thinking about what could be, you know, in terms of fantasy and science fiction and all of that stuff. And I grew up with this game, but grew up with so much more that was so similar to it. Another example here. All right. Conan the Barbarian, right? From Marvel Comics. This one is from the early 80s. I have some from the late 70s, from before my time. Because when I grew up, I was going to comic book stores, and of course, once you missed out on the new issues, you had to go to the back catalog and find the old stuff. And so I found Conan. I discovered Conan, and part of the reason was because I loved the Conan movie, yes, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And he just seemed so cool, man. He was so big, so tough. He had no fear. I think about that. I think about maybe in terms of like psychology, like maybe that's why I'm so enamored with the idea of these mighty warriors, is that they are fearless, or at least they are painted as such. You know, if I were asked by anyone, not that I have been, if I were asked to write these characters, I would probably try to write them as flawed, you know, as real people with real fears and all of that. But one of the beautiful things about Conan, and one of the beautiful things about the character from this game, absolutely fearless, 100%. And I think when you're a kid growing up, you have so many fears. You don't understand the world. You don't know what parents and teachers exactly are expecting of you. And so to dive into a fantasy world where not only are you strong and powerful, right, but also you're fearless, is a beautiful idea. Looking back at this game, and also at my fascination with Conan the Barbarian, it's sort of easy to read. Ooh, look, the dagger of throwing. What else is a dagger for? The dagger of throwing. As opposed to the dagger of what? All right, so in this first level, what you're trying to do is collect 100 gems, and then you gain access to the next section. And that gives you access to the first boss. So we'll see what we can do in terms of getting there today. No promises, as always, no promises on that. But yes, heroes and these warriors specifically, wizards and warriors. I do love a good wizard story, and of course the world loves wizards, thanks to, well, the old King Arthur legends of Merlin and all that, but also in modern times, Harry Potter and stuff, right? I was always, I have to say, more of a warrior guy than a wizard guy. I would take a broadsword or a battle axe over a wand any day. And speaking of that, I want to mention another part of Wizards and Warriors lore that I love, and that is a little series that I've been waiting to find some context to discuss with you guys about it. A little series from my childhood called Wizards, Warriors, and You. This chapter book series was short-lived. They only had one printing, and I hate to even mention it online because it means people will get interested and go find them, and then I won't be able to find them. But there is a guy who wrote these. He called himself Eric Affaby in the series, okay? It's not his real name. You might know him as R.L. Stein. That's right. He would eventually become famous for his Goosebumps books, okay? But before he figured out that we all loved horror and that there was a way to sort of market horror to kids and make some money doing that, he was trying this whole Wizards and Warriors angle because he saw that Dungeons and Dragons was a big deal. So R.L. Stein, and I think he's a fine writer. I mean, for what he does, for what he's trying to do, I think it's a lot of fun. But I loved these books. And of course, these books, the Wizards, Warriors, and You, was a fun little chapter book series where you could pick between either the wizard or the warrior. As I said, I always picked the warrior. And you would go through a choose-your-own adventure style adventure where you were given a choice at some point in the narrative, right? And then you were asked to turn to a certain page based on your choice, and that would lead to either your success or your ruin. Now, all of these had come about because of this one guy, Edward Packard. And Edward Packard wrote the very first choose-your-own-adventure story called The Cave of Time. And Edward Packard is famous for having done so in creating an entire genre of beloved fiction. The story goes that Edward Packard was just putting his daughter to bed at night and would regale her with stories. And when he would tell her stories, at points in the narrative, he would ask her what she wanted to do, right? And she would make a choice, and then it would change his story. And she loved this experience with her dad so much, and loved telling stories so much, that she said, "Dad, you should really write this down." And he did not fancy himself a writer at all, but he did go on to write his stories down. his stories of wizards, warriors, and whatnot, let's say. And it would eventually become the very first choose-your-own-adventure book. Now, that would become a massive franchise where many writers contributed, and there were all kinds of stories, not just stories of wizards and warriors. But if you're a kid of the 80s or the 90s, you know them well. But yes, if you're a kid of the 90s or the early aughts, you also know of R.L. Stine. And this was his in-between period when he was trying to find his success and his voice. He did the Wizards, Warriors, and You series. Choose your own adventure. Let's call it a ripoff, even though I happen to really enjoy it, in which you not only choose your character, the wizard or the warrior, but you choose your weapons and or your spells, depending on what you pick to do. And then periodically through the narrative, you are asked which weapons did you pick or which spells did you pick, and that would change the order of what would happen. Fun. So yes, I loved this game, Wizards and Warriors. I loved Conan. Okay, let's go. All right, see, this dude moved out of the way because I got over 100 gems. So now I get to advance to the next part. Check out this music. I love it. The goal here is just fall. Just fall down. I mean, there's good stuff to pick up if you can collect it on the way. Well, look at this. So yes, I loved Wizards and Warriors, this game on the NES. I loved Conan the Barbarian, both the film and the comic book. And yes, I loved Wizards, Warriors, and You, R.L. Stine's first attempt at getting famous. But I also have to say that my all-time favorite, my all-time big love when it comes to warriors and fantasy stuff, you probably guessed it already, it's He-Man. It's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Now, in the 80s, you would buy these toys in the store, right? This is Battle Action He-Man, by the way. And this is a reproduction of Battle Action He-Man given to my children by one Mark Gifford. That's right. He had these in the packages still, and he gave them to my kids a number of years ago. Made me promise not to sell them on eBay and to let my kids enjoy them. And of course, I'm happy to do so because I love having them in the house as well. He-Man, you see, would come with comic books. I mean, what could be more exciting than that? To give you help in the narrative, to understand who these people were and what was happening. Just look at some of this stuff. It's beautiful, right? Look at Skeletor there. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was not just in the toys and not just in the comic books, but also in the cartoon series from when I was a kid, and that awful movie with Dolph Lundgren. I mean, I call it awful, but I have to admit I have it on Blu-ray. I can't get up there. Do you see me struggling here? I want to get up there because I'm going to face the boss if I can manage. Here we go. Let's do it. That's all right. This game is super hard, but it gives you unlimited continues. So I'm going to smoke this dude either way. Give it to me. Yeah. Check out this music. After this. Very satisfying. And I have rescued Lucinda? The font is strange there. All right, thanks for being with me today. Just talking like high fantasy, wizards and warriors, and the love for 80s and 90s, well, what? Garbage culture? Maybe, but I still love these today. As you can see, they're still in front of me. He-Man, Conan, Wizards and Warriors, and yes, the Wizards and Warriors series from R.L. Stine. So thanks for being with us. Oh, I got to finish my beverage. In between now and the next time I talk to you, I'm Todd. See ya.